Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the lineup with Dave Prodan. I'm Dave Prodan, and this is our second episode. Thanks to everyone who listened to last week's episode with Peter Townend. The response was really more than we expected, and that's really cool. It means that we get to keep doing these things. And if you haven't listened to it yet, please do. You're not going to regret it. We fittingly, although it did take some internal convincing, started this series last week with a logical starting point in Peter Townend, the world's first world surfing champion, which made a lot of sense, but it also created something of a predicament when it comes to this week's follow-up act. Fortunately for us, we were able to land on someone whom I hold in such high regard and have had the privilege of knowing for a lot of years through work. And on top of that, enjoyed a really interesting conversation where I learned a lot about them as well. Related, the surfing world is undoubtedly a community obsessed with the cult of youth, and it always has been. There's probably a great academic paper to be written on the topic surrounding concepts of mortality and denial and gender dynamics and business and health and well-being. All of it kind of mashed together and in, at times, beautiful kind of chaos. With that, though, of course, there are dangers and there are pitfalls and moral quandaries and paradoxes, all of which we want to unpack and probe and question on this podcast in the future. Today, though, we're going to begin to explore a recurring narrative in surfing, the one of great expectations, whether it's exposure too soon or the surf industrial hype machine or a family name. All of these things can build up a daunting set of expectations. These are expectations that are being cast upon the shoulders of younger and younger surfers. Exploring this topic and many others today is someone who comes from a family that is about as close to surfing royalty as it gets. Someone who's been sponsored and celebrated since she was 8 years old. I can't remember what I was doing at 8 years old, but it definitely wasn't that cool. She's someone who qualified for the Elite Championship Tour at 17. She was the 2019 ASP Rookie of the Year. She's been a stalwart of that elite level of surfing for about a decade, and someone who has navigated all of this, really this Wild West kind of minefield, with an unparalleled grace and class and kindness. Please enjoy the lineup's conversation with the inimitable Coco Ho.
The good old clap, take one.
That's right.
How many of you knew what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old? I did. I wanted to be a world champion.
Hey, is there honesty involved in this podcast? Can we be honest?
You can shut your fucking lips.
And then I'll just say, put them up once, let's go.
He's like, you look too pretty on the wave. Get ugly.
We can talk about DMT if you want.
I thought you were boxing.
So I was thinking, your dad and your uncle are here, is the rumor.
Yes.
Right. And you come from really one of the most important surfing families in the history of the human species.
Thank you.
Dad's a multiple-time Triple Crown champion. Uncle Derek was the first Hawaiian world champion. Your brother is
Special.
Special in every way. Like he is, what he's built is the most entertaining surfer in the world. He's great. And you've really been at the center of the surfing universe since I was like a kid. Like I remember you being in magazines. Like, what's it kind of been like growing up in the spotlight for you?
It doesn't feel like a spotlight when you're in it. I think especially because we're healthy, we're doing something we love. It's not like a rock star where you're like, oh, she's going down. You wake up every morning to go get barreled and surf, and so we live a very healthy lifestyle, and you can see that through my dad and Uncle Derek. It's brought youth to them. They're 62 and 57, 55, and you could never guess.
No way.
Yeah, so
they're still charging like pipeline.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like this crazy pressure of being. It just felt like our lifestyle, and it is, and it's everyone around us. There's so many parents and dads that are on tour with their kids and still surf all day and surf longer than us. Are
you a morning person or an evening person?
Morning for sure.
Yeah, I was talking to Pat O'Connell about this, and he's like, man, I got an email from the boss at like 9 o'clock at night, and it was like I had been asleep for an hour and a half. And I'm like, yeah. I get it. Like, he's like, mornings are so sacred as a surfer. Like, and I think that's kind of what you're talking about with the lifestyle thing.
Yeah, it's so healthy to be a surfer because we're not about late nights. It's about the crack of dawn, the first wave, and we use our bodies to compete. Sometimes we're surfing heats at 7 a.m. So yeah, it's a very healthy lifestyle, and that's why I think there's so much longevity in it for most of us. And
I mean, even like, I remember the first few times going to Brazil and Rio, and like the big thing is like, hey, like if, you know, what's the phrase? Like if I go to Disneyland, I want to see Mickey Mouse. Like if you go to Rio, they're like, you got to go check the party out. But the parties don't start till like 2.
yeah,
I would go to bed and then get up and go because I'm like, I can't do it.
I'm pretty much right there with you. Yeah, Brazil and even Europe and stuff. I'm like, wait, what time do you start? But it's such a funny thing.
Yeah. So tell me a story about when you started surfing. Like, do you even remember when you started, or is it just kind of always been something like just kind of intrinsic in who you are as a person?
My way of starting was super unique because it's not the cliche, dad's a pro surfer, he wanted me to surf. He was surfers are selfish. They want to surf, they want to get their waves. It is a selfish sport. I mean, you're out there like fighting for your wave. Essentially, that's what we do. So dad was very doing his deal. He almost like felt like he wasn't even watching us when we were kids, which is really funny. So Mason and I were fully on our own program. We live a couple feet away from the beach. So after school, we'd go to the beach, a huge group of us. Inside Sunset is called Shores. And when sunset's like 10, 12 feet, it comes into Shores, and it's this little left whitewater. And that's where we surf. I started on a bodyboard, and I started standing up and spinning like everyone. And then Mason was like, whoa, try my board. Like he finally saw the potential. And I might have been like 6 or 7. And yeah, he handed me his board, and I did it right away on his like 5'4" or something at the time. And then he came home and he told my dad, he's like, whoa, she did it. And yeah, from there on, I asked for my birthday, can I have a board of my own? And we got it when we asked for it, but we still just wanted his time, and that was hard to get. So it was really me and Mason in the beginning.
Maybe he just didn't want you guys to surf because he'd have to battle you guys for waves.
Totally. And he'd have to give up his waves.
That's right.
And he had to surf the smaller peak. Yeah, I get it. Now I get it. When I'm trying to help my nieces or cousins' kids, I'm like, oh, I just surfed all day. I really don't want to go back in the sun and push you. But I do.
Do you kind of remember starting and then progressing and kind of understanding like, hey, maybe this is like a career path for me?
I do. It's kind of those moments of recognition from my brother. When I do a sick turn, he'd be like, oh, that was sick. You look like Lisa, or you look like Rochelle. When he started, like, we'd play around that we were these superheroes. That's when I was like, I could be Lisa and I could be Rochelle. Like, that's kind of Mason's recognition gave me that little fire and that desire that I could do this for real.
And when you guys were younger, was Mason kind of someone that was in the community or even sort of outside the community recognized as like a good surfer? Or was it more just like, he's my older brother, or he's my brother, you know, like, yeah. It's really important to get that kind of validation.
He was the kingpin
of
the gang. He was the boss. I mean, there was Berger, there was all his 5 best friends to this day are his 5 best friends from childhood, and they're from school. Adam Crawford's one. His dad was a pipe master, Jeff Crawford. Drew Pringle, Cruz Surratt. There's like 5 or 6 of them, and they're still the 5 or 6. John Michael, whose aunt was, his mom was Linda Benson. So it's just like a lot. No, Becky Benson, sorry. And she was a judge. But I think they're related to Linda Benson. So yeah, it's just everyone was tied into surfing some way, and they're still the best friends.
And did you run around with the boys? Did you have like your own little crew of people when you were growing up? Or?
Yeah, I didn't have my own crew until about 12. And then I was kind of with John and Kieran. And those were my gang, and we'd surf a different spot than Mason and them. Yeah. Once I started hanging with them, I stopped really surfing with my brother and them.
Yeah, right. What spot did you surf?
We surf more towards John's house, which is like Eukai, Sandbar, and Pupukea. And I think Mason and them were at like Rockies already. When
you kind of started getting attention, do you remember how old you were? Like first magazine photo. Like, do you remember that?
I remember like my first Volcom ad, or like huge.
How long have you been with Volcom?
I'm 28, and I think I was 9, so 19 years. But Volcom does make it a huge point at the 20 year. So I'm waiting for that email. Like, it's been 20 years. But I think it's 19.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
Insane.
And so you think probably like right around that age when you started is when they started promoting you?
Yeah, probably like 10 or 11 I got to add.
Do you think it's sort of like an outsized big deal in Hawaii, like where you grow up in the community, when people start seeing that? Is there any tension with the other kids? Like, what was it like when you first saw yourself in the magazines?
Yeah, true. It would be pretty weird for other peers. It was magazine, so it was definitely a lot less gritty and like kind of hate it. You know, Instagram, people get very jealous very quickly because it's, I don't know, it's just so in your face. Like, this is me, this is my ad.
Right.
Magazines are more like you go and open the magazine and see it. Like, it's not like,
It's a bit more passive in terms of like,
yeah. I don't know. It just felt less, there was less like hate or,
right.
I don't know. It felt like it didn't feel weird when you got a magazine thing. And same like if I saw Carissa, it was sick because I opened the magazine and I stayed on that page and like admired it. I don't know. It felt different.
No, that's interesting. I mean, I think part of it's like, you know, with print magazines, the whole dynamic of someone taking your photo and then someone either working with a sponsor or the editor and that getting approval. Like there's a lot more merit associated with it.
Yes.
So you could be like, oh yeah, like this isn't Coco like
me posting it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and now it is. I mean, and it's inside and outside of surfing. It's inside and outside of like sport and celebrity. Like it's sort of a celebrity, like I'm my own kind of, you know, brand culture kind of in a lot of ways.
Totally. And that's why sometimes social sucks is like you have to post your highlight.
It's exhausting.
And it's exhausting. It's weird. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of when I see a photo, like, can you post this of you? I'm like, I'm sick of seeing myself on my page, you know? But then essentially that's why I follow Beyonce is I want to see her video that she's singing to the camera. Like, it is personal, so I get it. But I do get sick of seeing myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big deal. Certainly if you're associated with having kind of a brand, right? And that's the value to your sponsor, et cetera. Like it's exhausting and it's like this forfeiting of the physical identity for a digital one. And it's not always real. Like there's a curation aspect to it. But I mean, how much thought do you have to put into your social media every day? Like just yours, not the ones you're looking at. But
yeah. My whole theory, and even with my manager, he knows exactly what deals I would or wouldn't sign solely off how I operate on social.
Right.
And like, I do not like posting like a pre-planned photo. I'm like, if I'm doing a post for Skull Candy, it's me. I'll post it when I'm wearing the headphones before my heat, or if I'm really wearing, you know, like I never want to, there's just too much of this like fake facade deal. And I'm like, if I'm going to post it, it's because I'm doing it now.
Well, it sounds like similar to like why you follow Beyonce. You're like, well, I follow her because I know I'm actually kind of tapping the source and who she is as a person. I'm getting it straight from the source, as opposed to, I think it's really obvious too, like when you're like, that manager posted that for that person, or like the post is referring to the poster in third person. You're like, okay, clearly like you're not doing
everyone
this
knows you're in Lemoore and you're like posting you on the beach in Hawaii. It's like, I'm very conscious of being then and there than now. And that was originally what Instagram started for. And then now we've all taken it way too far on the branding side. But I try and keep it as real as I can.
I just use it to like stalk people around my community to find out where the good sandbars are.
Totally.
And I get really frustrated when it's a dated photo where I'm like, was that this morning? And then it's flat. And you're like, what happened? Who else would you say you kind of follow and are inspired by on social media in addition to Beyonce? Yeah,
there's great things on social. It's really like cup half full, or half how you look at it and how you use Instagram. There's so many inspiring and encouraging pages depending on what you believe in, you know, like if it's a horoscope lady or if it's anything, you know. So my following is all very positive. Like it's people I adore for reasons, you know, it's friends, family, and I find the good in like the quotes and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
I think it's awesome for like access to information. Like
totally learn.
What is your astrological sign?
I'm a Taurus.
A Taurus? Are you super into it? Do you think like?
I definitely believe in it.
Yep.
It's too real to not. Like it's when I hear things about people, it all makes sense. Sure. But I do believe there are a lot, like religion, there's a lot of doors. Like there could be your horoscope, or it could be Chinese medicine, or
Right.
this, or there's just a lot of options, which
Yeah.
is cool. And I just lightly listen to all of them. I'm not like verbatim one,
Right.
but on Bondi Guru, she's insane. She's a little bit of both. She's like does your astrology, but it's by her feeling. Like she's a spiritual. What is it called? She's like intuitive. So she's
Sure,
an
okay.
intuitive
Yep.
astrologer. So
Okay.
it's her guessing what she's saying to you, and she's very honest about that,
Yeah.
and it's insane.
How long have you been into it?
Following her.
Well, not just following her, but like into.
I
like-
think she made me believe in astrology a little more because she so lightly put like it's about where the moon and the stars are on this day, but I'm like intuitive, so I'm just doing what I think you're going through based on that.
Right.
So she's like kind of just way more on it. She's not like, this is it. This
Yeah.
is how you're feeling.
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
super cool when you read her stuff because it's like, it's her speaking to you. I don't know. You gotta try. Look.
Oh, all right. I will try.
Bondi Guru.
At Bondi Guru.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clearly she's from Bondi.
We actually make it a segment on the podcast. We should just kind of look
Talk
at
to her.
Guys.
Yeah.
The
Wait, I want to meet her on that one.
we'll bring it back. We just have it be you and her.
Yeah.
Were you ever religious or spiritual before you got into astrology? Like, have you always kind of?
Yeah, I'm not like crazy like I don't even know much about it.
Sure.
But I do believe in it. And same with religion. I'm Christian. I was raised, my parents were both Catholic. They went to Catholic schools. And I, as a little kid, would follow around all the families that would go to church on Sunday. And it was weird. It was just like, I wanted that, I guess. You know, most kids didn't want to go to church or whatever.
Right.
And my parents stopped because they went to Catholic schools, and they were like, yeah, no. And, but I would like sought after families that I know would go, and I'd sleep over on Saturday night knowing I'd get to go to church on Sunday. And I think there's something about personalities that do need something to believe in.
Right.
And I'm one of them. So
I think probably everyone is, you know. I think some people look to religion or specific religion. I mean, a lot of people look to kind of surfing as a religion or
Totally.
like anything else. Like,
Totally.
you know, some people look to like academics or science, you know, like people just, I think there's like an inherent craving for knowledge for a lot of people, you know.
totally. And a core, something to believe in, a steady like faith and direction.
So my twins are 5.5, and they went to a preschool, and the preschools are often like at churches, so they kind of have like a basic understanding. And we were at a wedding a couple months ago. It was a Catholic wedding, and they'd never seen like the crucifix like at like Catholic churches. And my son was a groomsman, and he was sitting next to me, and it was a very long ceremony. It was really nice. But at one point it was quiet, and he kind of looked up, and you know, Jesus is up there, and he's got the he hasn't looked like he's been having a good time.
Yeah.
And Kellen goes like, Dad, who's that guy? And I go, I said, just be quiet. Like, I said, that's Jesus. And he goes, that's Jesus? Like, super loud during the ceremony. And he's going, what happened to him? And I'm like, man, it's a long story. We'll have to talk about it later.
It's a very long story.
Yeah, it's good. So that was his experience with Catholicism so far.
Yeah.
Tracking back a little bit, as you're getting better, you're running with John, who knows what happened to that guy,
Yeah.
and Kieran, and you know, you're getting sponsors, and you start doing contests, and you're getting more attention. Like, walk us through that like development phase a little bit of like, I guess it would have been early to mid-teens, and you qualified really young.
Exactly. Yeah. What was that like? So 14 to even 13 to 16, so cool. And this is the part of Hawaii that is so unique. I touched on it a little bit in my documentary, but we were raised, you go to school, you do your homework at school, so you can, when you get out, you go surf till the sun goes down.
Right.
And that was our life. Like, we were very fortunate, very lucky. We knew what peak was good on what swell direction, and we would literally all go post up. We'd surf, come in, play, hang out. Some parent would bring us water and snacks eventually somewhere. And we'd surf till dark. And it was so free. You know, we were just doing something we loved. We were all pushing each other. We were all trying each other's boards. And it was a very natural way to fall in love with the sport. And yeah, that's how it happened. And then we're all just competing, and obviously you get more serious every year. You start competing, and the boys QS is a lot harder. There's a lot more men, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, at 17 I just pulled it off. Like, didn't even I actually didn't want to go to Margaret's the year I qualified. I was in California at like Disneyland with Sage, just living my best life. And my dad was like, get home. You're coming with me and Mason tomorrow to WA. And I was like, ew, no. And that, now looking back to 2008, that was my turning point, because I had done Phillip Island in January, got last, like 500 points, went to Margaret's. It was super small. We ran like on South Side, and I was against Beck Woods in the quarters or something, and it was so small, and I'm so small, and I just beat her, and I got a huge result out of nowhere. So I had a third or something. So I had a last and a third. Went to US Open, just happy-go-lucky, made the final with Malia, the youngest final ever at the US Open. So I had a second, a third, a dead last, and then we went to Haleiwa. And there, I made the final, so I got fourth. And Silvana double qualified, I think, or something on tour. And when I came in from that final, they're like, I think you qualified. Like, it was the funniest, like, anticlimactic, you qualified.
I mean, it's maybe better, like, when you talk to a lot of people trying to qualify.
Oh my
and
gosh.
like, my goal in the next 3 years is to qualify. And every year, like, and you see a lot of people, you see it on the qualifying side and the world title side, like, they get close and they miss it, and then the next year's worse, like, result-wise, because they're like, I'm exhausted.
You're so,
So yeah, I think you did it the right way. Like, I didn't try, and I
very lucky.
fell into it.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
it's weird to say, because you watch people on the QS for 11 years, you know, or something. And so yeah, I was very fortunate, but I have to give the credit to my dad for pulling me by the ear to go to the WA. And I think it was just because, like, I was off in California alone, and they were all gonna leave. So if I went home, I was home alone, and he's like, no, you're coming with us. And that little, like, result, that was it. That was the turning point.
so it was a parenting panic.
And it made me qualify. And from that day forward, my dad was on tour.
Did you tell your dad that because you qualified, you get to make up your Disneyland trip?
Totally.
Go back.
Yeah, and then once I qualified, my whole life changed. You know, it was like, I was still in school. I had to finish. I was already homeschooling, which was cool, but I missed, like, our homeschool is so cool. They tried to give us the best opportunities to have, like, prom or graduation. And it was, once again, it was like Kieran, John, my best friend Kalani, Nozaki, like, a lot of us. I missed the, like, fake prom thing.
But you have to stop. I need to understand what homeschool fake prom is.
Well, our homeschool was all the Monizes did it.
Sure.
It was the catch to the school, why it was so cool, is they gave you brand new Apple MacBooks, so you could iChat your teachers.
Okay.
And it was this new system, all online. We were all in this school, every Moniz, all of us on the North Shore, and the teachers were so cool. I think they just loved us so much that they're like, let's make them like a prom or a surf team. They made us a surf team. We won nationals. Like,
how many kids are we talking about?
We're talking about the Monizes and the North Shore.
So
kids.
So yeah, but like how many? Like 30, 50, 10?
Between us, there was only like 16, and then maybe there was like 20 more. It was so new.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how this happened, but it was very cool.
So they did have a prom.
Yeah, they had like a little get together, like,
got it. Close enough.
Makeshift.
Did you get asked?
I didn't get to do that because I was on tour. It was Snapper, I think.
That's fun too.
Yeah, no, that was very fun. But
yeah,
I
do want to know, because did you get asked to go to prom? And you're like, sorry, I can't.
No, because they all knew my schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
It is.
Because you came from such a comfortable family situation on the North Shore, did you ever have any challenges growing up with friends or the neighborhood or the community, or do you feel like you benefited from kind of having a bit of a gilded path because your father and your brother and your uncle and your whole family really were just kind of already very important figures in the surf world?
I was super lucky on my upbringing because I did have that security feeling of a lot of family. My dad has 4 siblings. Everyone lives on the North Shore. I have a ton of cousins, ton of aunts, ton of uncles. If anything, my upbringing taught me a lot about respect and kind of that pecking list and who to respect and how to respect everyone, even if you don't know them, or you call every person in the lineup uncle or auntie. And and then automatically they're going to protect you. You know, that was kind of how I was raised. It was like I felt safe everywhere I went because I was so raised well and respectful to them that I did feel safe. And then I had a big brother he was quiet, you know, he wasn't the loud, like, annoying kid. He was very respected, especially in his peer group. He was like the boss. So yeah, I was very lucky with the whole situation.
I think the community aspect of like everyone's your uncle and auntie is like really so beautiful. Like I've actually adopted it. Like, cause even when I started on tour, you know, your dad's like, call me Uncle Mike.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're fucking Mike Ho, man.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's, yeah, sure. Whatever you
Totally.
want. Like, and it's awesome. And even now with my kids, like, and whoever, like, or I'll be their uncle or they've got an uncle, you know, everyone's that. And it's like, it's this rad community familial thing where everyone is already built into caring about someone else. Right?
Totally. And that's what makes the environment so safe.
Right.
You can feel so comfortable. You can be at the beach all day with Auntie Lisa and you're totally fine. And everyone gets to stay at the beach till dark because one aunt is there, you know?
That's right.
And that's what made this like community. And then you have Auntie Lisa was actually Billy's mom.
Right.
And Billy Kemper. And she was the beach mama. Like we had certain people's parents were like the ones you knew to gravitate towards. And that's what makes like now Billy is like a brother to me still. We're
Sure.
28 and 29 and he has a family and stuff. And it's just like you.
Now you're on
Now
to
we're,
his kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how it'll always be.
It's so
It's
awesome.
really cool.
Rookie year, what were the expectations going into it for you? Like, was it, I mean, I guess my question would be like, did you think I am like a game-changing kind of talent for women's surfing? My goal's a world title. Was that your headspace when you started, or?
I wish. That might be my downfall, is how carefree and happy I am about where I am now. So I never once took my career like psycho serious in the
Right.
beginning. And success came because of that. You know, like I finished 4th in the world my rookie year.
Big win in Portugal.
Big win in Portugal, probably just because I was so carefree and la-di-da-di-da. And that's how my first 5 years went, I feel like. And now looking back, it's hard now. You know, everyone's up the game, and luckily I'm still there too, like upping my game. But I never changed my mental approach to surfing, and I think that's what makes me still love it and
Right.
still want to be here. But there are moments where I'm like, I underachieved because of it. And so it's a catch-22, but I think I am a lot happier than maybe someone who sacrificed more.
Well, and
Hard to say, I don't know.
everyone's different too, right? Like some people, it sounds like, you know, you identified early on, like, this is what works for me. Like some
Yes.
people are like, I need to be up at 3 a.m. training
Totally.
and, you know, in bed by 7. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is. It's not a one size fits all like success thing.
Yeah,
you know.
no.
Have you ever worked with any sort of like? I'm sure you've worked with trainers, but like any sort of like mental coach.
Mental
you know.
coach. There was a moment, probably 4 years ago, and I don't know what originally put me in the place to even seek help. You know what it was? Is all of a sudden I would lose all confidence when I put the jersey on. Like I would put the jersey on and be like, oh, you could lose right now. Like you could lose this easy heat
Before you even paddle out.
before I even touched the water. And then that kind of like took over one year, the whole year. And my manager was like, what's up? You're losing heats like you shouldn't be. And you don't look kind of there. And I was like, it took him saying it for me to like kind of embrace and be like, oh yeah, you're right. And then I started recognizing it and identifying it. And I just spoke to someone. I forget how we even squashed it, but I don't see them anymore. And I requalified and I started winning a lot of QSs, unfortunately not tour events. But yeah, and then that kind of brought my confidence and my love for competing back. Even though they're QSs, it's a lot of the same competitors. And yeah, I kind of went on a little QS spree for a few years, and that's satisfied my competitiveness. And
Sure. Did you or do you remember identifying where the weird dip in confidence came from at the time? Were you like, did you kind of be like, I guess this is where this has come from, which is now I understand where, and now we can kind of work out how to deal with it?
it was obviously a moment like somewhere subconsciously. I don't remember too well. I do remember losing to a wild card at Snapper.
Right.
Like I would have been the highest seed in round 2 to get the wild card. So whatever year that was, maybe like 6-7 years ago, I just remember getting that feeling of, that could happen again. Like, you can lose to this, you know? And it got me for a while. And because I wasn't maybe focused on the task at hand, I didn't take care of it soon enough.
Yeah. I mean, just as someone who's gotten to work with you for a long time and been on tour for 14 years and let's say an amateur analyst of pro surfing, I'm not a judge, although I judged one heat. I think I have a perfect record. I think your strength from the start, even through now for sure, has been that you've had the perfect technical approach and all the speed and all the strength and all the talent, right? But a lot of times it's all the other things that go into it. Like, it's physicality, it's head game, it's psychology. And was there ever anything for you in terms of like the dynasty that you come from with your family and expectation, and then coming in and being like, wow, like the level here is really radical. Like, Carissa's radical, Steph's radical. Did you ever have to kind of wrestle with anything in terms of like a
Pressure?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely not. Luckily, you know, and that was everyone's like first assumption was like, oh, she probably has a lot of pressure. But if you know my family, and you do know my family well, my brother is very carefree and charismatic and happy. My dad's actually the chillest cucumber there is. And Uncle Derek, who is the only world champ in our family, is the grittiest. And he's so grindy and gritty, and he just is like, Coco, come on. Like, he is my inspiration, because I'm like, I have a hard time tapping into that grit and that competitiveness that Carissa and Steph do tap into.
Right.
And even Sally, especially, you know, like, there's a few that are just like, they achieve so much because of that fight. And Uncle Derek has that the most. And sometimes I'm like, hey, I got to be like Uncle Derek right here. And Mason's a great reminder. He'll send me the funniest texts, and he's like, get feisty, you know, like they encourage, because they know where I'm weak. And
Sure.
And it's actually very supportive and cool.
Sometimes it works the other way, though. Like, sometimes because you are really carefree and so talented, the person that is really grindy and hardworking gets intimidated, because they're like, man, I'm working so hard, and this seems so easy for this person.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, so it's a catch-22 for sure.
Yeah.
But I do look up to Uncle Derek. I'm like, I got to get there.
Do you consider yourself famous?
Oof. Not in my hometown, because everyone's just like, they know we all live there.
Right.
They're like, John lives down the street. She lives right here.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, it's really fun and cool for the kids to come surf and ask funny questions in the water. I talk to every Grom in the lineup, because it's exactly how I was. You know, I'd go up and paddle and talk to Kalani Robb and Megan Abuvo and just tell them about school and stuff that now when kids talk to me about funny stuff, I'm like, yes, you got it. You're normal.
I mean, I think it's like, it's one of those things that's like hugely grounding, because surfing's so accessible, and we use it all the time, where people are like, hey, like before an event, you know, I can paddle out and sit next to Coco and talk to her.
Yeah.
You know, I can't walk onto a basketball court and shoot free throws with Kyrie before his game.
Totally.
And I just think it's this interesting, like, catch-22, as you said, where it's like, it's so important to a lot of people, and it's this global sport, but it's at the same time so, like, I guess, like, calibrating from a, like, I'm a human being kind of standpoint, you know?
I love sharing the lineup with fans of surfing and getting to, I love when they're comfortable enough to be like, oh, Coco, sick heat and Margaret's, and like chat. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. And then you just see their eyes light up, and like, we are right here. We are normal. We're all just in the ocean because we love surfing. So it is super sick. I love sharing those experiences.
But I would say that probably having your profile and your career has probably afforded you like cool opportunities, like outside of surfing, to like meet different creative people and different people from other sports. Like, what are some of the cooler things that you think you've gotten to do because of your career?
No, yeah, that's very true. I think, I mean, if I wasn't a surfer or known, I definitely wouldn't have met my boyfriend. And he's an Olympic snowboarder and the best thing that came into my life, you know? So yeah, I gotta thank surfing and a little bit of that fame to be able, I met him in Aspen at X Games, and I was there because of a sponsor, a brand brought my father and I there. So,
how did you guys connect?
He actually knew me already. Like we had Instagram.
Because you were famous.
Yeah, he's like, I follow you.
To a
I was
degree.
like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't have the foundation I had, I was like, yeah, I guess I would have never met you, this boy from Canada.
And how does that work? Like, I would imagine you've snowboarded a little bit more than you would have otherwise.
Totally.
And he's probably surfed a little bit more
A
than you would
lot
have
more
otherwise.
than he would have done otherwise.
You probably use a different SPF sunscreen.
Totally. He like, actually, you would think the opposite though. You would think he would use more sunscreen because he's lighter.
Sure.
He's backwards. Because he doesn't get to surf all day, every day, he thinks he doesn't need to use sunscreen. And he thinks I put on too much sunscreen.
Yeah.
Do you get it? Like,
Perhaps
Full
his
opposite.
paleness is so powerful that it repels the sun's rays.
no, I'm like, you're so backwards. I was like, yeah, he thinks I shouldn't put sunscreen on. I'm like, I've been in the sun since I was 7 years old, every day of my life, staring at the horizon like this.
Yeah, that's right. Is he a good surfer?
He is. He's actually a great paddler, which is really hard to believe because anyone who learns to surf, that is the hardest part. Everyone can stand up and kind of figure it out, right? But paddling and positioning and popping up fast is like the Achilles heel. He's the best at that.
Does he stand out at VLAN when he's out there? As people,
Oh, he stood out recently.
is he like Ho family adjacent? So people are like, go ahead, Mark.
Totally. Everyone wants to see him surf because a lot of people are huge fans, of
Sure, yeah, he's
snowboarding and
amazing.
watching X Games and stuff. So they're like, love to give him a wave. So it's actually pretty funny. I'm like, whoa, you have this special little power over everyone.
Are you a good snowboarder?
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm pretty safe.
As you should be.
Yeah. I hit a jump a long time ago. I was like, Dad, take notes. And I hit this huge, it was only 4 foot, but it's like a 4-foot jump. And I lost all my control and was rolling down the windows and landed on my tailbone. And that day on, I kind of avoided jumps. Now I do little bunny hops if I want to get air.
The tailbone is no joke.
Yeah.
I chipped my sacrum in a hot tub accident that we're not going to talk about. But yeah, I learned a lot about myself through it. I mean, it must be really rad to have been partnered with Volcom for such a long time because they obviously are very core in terms of surf and skate and snow, and you can probably benefit from just having those avenues to pursue.
Yeah, I'm very lucky with Volcom. They are true to this. No, that is their
Good
saying.
job.
That is their saying, and it's so cool because so many people have their little line.
Just
and
do it.
yeah,
True to
and
this.
it's they are so true. If you look at their team, a lot of the team is hitting 20 years. It's insane. And they've backed me since I was so young, and they do have the avenues of skate. I made good friends with Leticia Buffoni because she was Volcom at one point. And then I get to go snowboard, and I'm in the best gear because they're so good at their little avenues. And yeah, this year, I guess it'd be spring 2020. I'm coming out with my first collection with them for the whole year, spring, summer, fall. And they're just go crazy, do anything. Most people are like, oh yeah, you get a board short, a bikini, a this. I think I have 14 pieces in every season, and all my creative, all my style, they're so cool. I wish I could elaborate more how just supportive to the team and loyal they are.
That's so cool. I mean, that was always, I remember, again, being industry involved for as long as I have, that was always the reputation that Wooly kind of had, right? Where you'd get a lot of talented, interesting people, regardless of their discipline, and they'd maybe have a few offers to go to another company, but they're like, well, I'm going to go to Volcom. It might not be as much money. They're going to let me be myself, and I'm family. I'm going to be
I'm
there
loyal,
for a long time.
And that's what they're known for, and it's what they do. So, yeah.
Have you ever been pursued by other companies looking?
I have. I feel like it's stopped because they know how loyal I am back. It's pretty funny, but I couldn't be more happy to be represented by one brand my whole career. That's what you dream of.
For sure. And it becomes really interesting, right? Because you become part of the fabric that builds that brand.
Totally.
Like Aki and Billabong,
Yep.
And it's it becomes this thing where it's it wouldn't do another brand really that much good to go there, but it also wouldn't do that brand any good to get rid of that person because they're part of the foundation.
Yep. And that's how it is. You look back, they do reviews oh, remember this board short from 2000? And I'm there. I'm still in the catalog. And then it's and we did this amazing top in 2007. And then it's I'm still there. So it is just this loyalty. It's really Cool.
So you're coming out with your first collection. You've never done anything like that before.
I've done like a board short,
Okay.
a bikini, but this is just gung ho, like huge.
Because like, so 14 SKUs each
Yeah.
season. So we're looking at, sorry, my mouth, 52 items.
A lot of stuff,
I
yeah.
probably got that wrong.
And my
56
number is probably off
for
too.
my dad out there. It's like, dude, get your multiplication table right. That's a lot.
It is. And it's fun because I'm at this point in life where I like to dress up. I like to look cute. And so it's been super fun. I've done kind of a little bit of everything. Tomboy, sporty, cute, crop, long, oversized. Like I literally got to hit every check I wanted to do. So it's awesome.
That's awesome. Is it, I mean, I'm not asking like, what are your future plans, but is that like an area you think you'd want to continue doing?
It was
In the
hard.
long term? Yeah.
Designing was hard.
It's a
It's
lot of
hard
work.
to, stay in the line, stay on brand, but
Yeah.
like also your who you're designing it for, and luckily it is like all my age, like, and everyone can wear it nowadays, which is great. Like an older mom compared to like a 17-year-old girl. But there was just so many little things. I was like, dear, this is hard. But I had a lot of fun because it's a full representation of me, and they did not stop me anywhere. If anything was a little weird or out there, they'd be like, I don't think that'd do well, but you can do it. And then I'm like, that was a weird one because do I listen to you or do I listen to me? And
That's right.
yeah, most of the time I was like, okay, yeah, clip that.
I mean, it is one of those things where people talk about, they're like, I'm going to start my own brand. And then they're like, oh my God, it is so much work. Because as like the seasons keep coming and the SKUs keep coming.
It didn't
and
stop.
It doesn't stop.
I felt like I finished it. I was like, woohoo, cool. And I started designing summer, and then they're like, shoot spring. And then I'm done designing summer, and then they're like fall, and I'm shoot spring. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what one's this from? Like, I'm just forgetting. It was so crazy.
Having had the career you've had already, and you're so young, it's involved a lot of international travel, and it is for everyone that works on tour, whether they're a surfer or a staff member or whatever. How have you found balancing kind of a home life that's obviously very important to you, traveling and being present where you are, and then personal life? Like, how have you evolved in the way you've approached that as you've gotten older?
Yeah, it has been a toss-up. When you're little, though, or 17, 18, you're all about that travel life. You just want to go see your friends in France and Brazil and this and that. And all those friends from home were traveling pretty much with me because they were doing the QS. So I didn't, like, miss that home. Like, oh, I miss my best friend. Luckily, I didn't those were my best friends on tour. And then, yeah, so the teens were so fun. I was on tour with Laura. I was on tour with Steph. Like, I never felt sad for my friends. I did notice how little time I spent with my mom and my dog once I started really getting on tour, and my tutu, my grandma. So that was probably the hardest for me, was those three. Dad came on tour quite a bit. Mason, I'd bump into him every other country, like, no worries. And then you get to this point where you fall in love and you have a boyfriend, and but trying to stay on tour and trying to focus on my career and be present in that country. But then I missed this new feeling that I had, so it was a huge weird tear in me for a long time, like a tossed up feeling. And then, yeah, I kind of dealt with it in the ways you'd expect, a little breakup, heartbreak. And then, yeah, now at 28, I found that, like, perfect balance of love, family, friends on tour still. And then, getting to kind of blend them all and enjoy. My injury gave me the most time at home I've ever gotten. And I realized during that injury, I was like, it feels so good to not hop on the plane right now. But by the end of it, I was so itchy to travel.
Yeah. I mean, it might not be something you experienced, but like, I remember being younger and just being like, I'm bored.
Yes.
And just being like, I wish I had something to do.
Yes.
And now, like, time is the most valuable currency ever. Like I'm constantly calculating, like, all right, I have a few things I have to do, like, which is going to get me the most time with the most valuable people or
Totally.
myself,
Yeah.
Sometimes. And
Yeah.
I think it really does become like time management, where it's like, I don't want to be here podcasting with you and thinking about another 10 things.
Totally.
Because it just doesn't have any impact. Or sleeping and stressing and thinking
Yeah.
about something else, or being with someone you love, or it is a huge challenge, I think. But I just think it's, as your life gets more full, you kind of just have to manage that time.
Totally. And I don't have kids yet, so
Not yet.
I don't know how that works for the guys and you and most people
I'm not an expert.
on tour. Yeah, that's like
Is that something in the future you want to have a family?
definitely, but it's definitely very clear that I would want that off tour.
Yeah.
At one point, like seeing Bethany pull it off, it looked very cool, but it looked very trying. And I think that's the beauty of chapters in life, is like, this is my chapter of pro surfing, and it's long and it's been great and it's cool. And that'll make me look forward to the next chapter, family and settling down. Obviously, when you're done, you're not going to stop traveling.
Yeah.
I always thought that, and Mark was like, we're not just going to stop traveling when we're done. Like, that's not how it works. So, yeah, and we'll have a nice balance of California, Hawaii, Canada. Like, you don't need to be in one place at all times.
Yeah, for sure. Bethany actually gave me tips for traveling with kids, because I was like, hey, how do you do the plane thing with the baby? She's like, well, she goes, what we did was we packed like Ziploc baggies with like candy and earbuds and handed them out ahead of the flight. It's like, we have a baby, here you go. And I'm like, you're such a good person.
She's a saint.
She's a saint.
Yeah.
Total
I would have
saint.
never thought of that.
No, and she told me and I still haven't done it.
Yeah, totally. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do that. That's so nice.
Yeah. So you see, as far as your professional surfing career goes, like an endpoint.
Yeah,
at some point.
essentially, yeah. Especially being the female. I mean, you do have to like choose. It's a long 9 months, couple years. It's
of course.
a big chunk of time. So it's not like like a little break in the tour or something. It's a big commitment. It's a life-changing experience. So I'm very aware of that, and I have no crazy desire for that right now. But in time, for sure. I love the dynamic of family. I love my family. I love what family brings, siblings and cousins. Like, it's important. It's an important part of who you are. And I couldn't not try and recreate
For
that.
sure. One of my favorite authors is Kurt Vonnegut Jr., and he ended up in a family situation where he adopted like a bunch of his family's kids who'd suffered tragedy, and he had a point, and actually tied to religion. And he's like, I think the best thing about religion is it provides like an extended family, and it's like, life is really hard. So the more people you have that you can rely on, the stronger you're going to be. No one can do it alone. So.
Yeah. You even look at the most successful people on tour. They have the biggest family. They're all here supporting, and it's just, I don't know. It is hard to say, because there are people who just had terrible family experience.
Sure.
Or shocking, and they're like, I will never bring a family into this life because of the experience they had. But if you can adopt or even have kids sleep over and learn and see your family and maybe change their views, then you saved the life, or you.
I mean, even back to what you're saying about the Hawaiian community, like, it doesn't have to be like a legal family.
Totally.
Like, it's, it's like, it's just sort of the idea of it. Do you have like competitive goals left? Is that how you start your year or anything? Like, what are they, and how do you kind of decide on what those are?
Yeah, definitely this year my goals have changed because I was injured and I missed an event. And I had a lot of, the format changed a little bit, and I got stuck in that rut of a lot of ninth places on the women's tour, which is bad. Like, you want quarters and above. So not bummed on my performances, bummed on just the little things that could have changed those ninths to fifths. But now I had to like erase the whole beginning of the year and just be like, I have 4 events left. I need 4 quarters or better. And that's how I'm looking at the year. I'm looking at the year as 4, and that's it. Like, I'm not looking back. I'm not remembering so-and-so has a 3rd and I only have a 5th. Like, these 4, just focus on myself. Obviously, I want to be on tour next year.
Of course.
I still love competing. I still have a lot of gas in the tank, so to speak. So I'm just thinking of these 4, and it's onward and forward, and whatever happens, happens. I'll for sure do the QS next year, and Yeah, it's weird. 28, you'd think, whatever, but I feel my strongest. I'm my smartest. I'm more in love with my boards and changing fins and like the fun little things. So too happy to stop.
Again, amateur surfing expert, like demonstrably surfing the best you've ever surfed, right? And that's a weird thing about competition for a lot of people, where it's like sometimes you just have years where it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
And not that doesn't get to you, but you don't seem like the kind of person that judges their surfing strictly based on contest results, because you are surfing so well.
Yeah, and that's probably why I'm not down. If you're in my situation, I think at this point in the year, look at the results and the numbers, you'd be like pretty negative. But I'm so happy. I'm happy with I'm stronger than ever because of the injury. I'm more in tune with my boards and stuff because of the injury, and just wanting some fresh change, 11 years later on tour. I've had a lot of fun with changing up my equipment this year, and now I just gotta it's a 4-event tour for me and enjoy it.
I think that goes back to the talent thing too. Like for some people, like it's very obvious, like I have to fight and claw my way to get through heats and stay on tour because they're just more talented people, but that's never been your thing. And it still isn't,
Fight and claw my head to think a little more gritty and get a little more into it. Mason always says that. He's like, get ugly. You look too pretty on the wave. Get ugly. I'm like, all right. And I can get there.
As if he's an expert on getting ugly.
I know. He's sitting there just pulling in a dry reef. That could get ugly real fast.
Well, that's what I got. We've got look at that. I timed that pretty good. We want to do the lightning round. I don't know where I put my phone though. Okay, so answer as fast as you can.
Oh, okay.
10 questions.
I like that.
One board setup for the rest of your life: single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad, bonzer, or finless.
Sorry, Dad, thruster. Millennial.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Burrito or pizza?
Burrito.
Last book you read?
Crickets. I don't know. I can't remember.
That's fair. Best surf film ever?
Anyone Andy was in. I can't remember the names, but we always used to watch Andy.
One wave you never have to go back to?
Oof. I know there's a place in my heart that I was like, ew, I will not come back. But
You've repressed it.
Yeah.
It's no longer part of your existence.
I used to think that about Pantene, and then I won twice. Now I love the place.
Only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life?
VLAN.
Best person to share a lineup with?
My dad. I might lose a friend. No. A lot of the people on tour.
I agree. Finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by...
winning this comp.
Damn right. Coco Ho, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
So that's it. That's Coco Ho. She was amazing. She's such a special person. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Again, if you haven't listened to last week's with Peter Townend, do yourself a favor and check that out. We're going to be dropping these every Friday, so please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and I hope you get some waves. See you next week.